Across the mountains, through the pine, a lonely rail across all time, smoke that fades in silent air, dreams of people traveling there. The story of train dreams unfolds quietly. Unlike many dramatic films about history, it does not rely on grand battles or political conflict. Instead, it focuses on the life of an ordinary man living during a time of enormous transformation in the American West. Robert Grenier, the central character, works as a laborer during the early 20th century. He helps build railroads. He clears forests. He participates in the physical construction of a new world, yet his life remains deeply humble. The beauty of this story lies in its perspective. History is often told through the actions of famous leaders and powerful institutions, but the real construction of civilization usually occurs through the work of millions of ordinary people. Railroads, cities, and industries are not built by a few individuals. They are built by countless workers whose names rarely appear in textbooks. Train Dreams reminds us that economic development is not only about markets and capital. It is also about human labor. The expansion of railroads across the American West required enormous physical effort. Workers laid tracks across mountains and valleys. They built bridges and tunnels. They moved steel and timber through harsh landscapes. For many laborers, this work was dangerous and exhausting. Yet it played a crucial role in shaping the economic geography of North America. Railroads connected remote regions with growing cities. They allowed goods to travel across vast distances. They created new opportunities for trade, migration, and settlement. The American frontier gradually transformed into an integrated national economy. But the film also shows that this transformation came with profound cultural changes. The wilderness that once defined the frontier slowly disappeared. Forests were cut down. Railways replaced quiet valleys with industrial noise. Small communities evolved into towns connected to distant markets. From an economic perspective, this process is often described as modernization. Infrastructure expands, productivity increases, markets become larger and more efficient. But for individuals living through these changes, the experience can feel more complicated. Progress does not always appear dramatic. Sometimes it arrives quietly. A railroad passes through the forest. A town begins to grow. And slowly, the landscape of life changes. The protagonist of Train Dreams experiences this transformation in a deeply personal way. His life moves forward alongside the growth of modern America, yet he remains close to nature. He observes the forests, the animals, and the passing seasons. Through his eyes, we see a contrast between two worlds. One world is the natural environment that existed for centuries. The other world is the emerging industrial civilization shaped by railroads and economic expansion. The film therefore presents a quiet meditation on the relationship between progress and memory. Economic development brings opportunity and connection, but it also changes landscapes and cultures in ways that cannot easily be reversed. Train Dreams invites us to reflect on the human experience within these vast historical movements. It reminds us that the story of civilization is not only about systems and institutions. It is also about individuals, about workers whose lives unfold quietly beneath the great transformations of history. Trails across the mountains high, smoke beneath the open sky. Hands of workers, dreams of steel, building roads the world will feel. Behind the quiet life portrayed in train dreams lies one of the largest economic transformations in American history. The expansion of the railroad network across North America reshaped the entire continent. Railroads connected distant regions. They allowed goods, people, and ideas to travel faster than ever before. Before the arrival of railroads, the American West was largely isolated. Mountains, forests, and long distances made travel slow and difficult. Small communities survived through local trade and limited transportation routes. But once railroad tracks began to cross the landscape, those isolated regions became part of a much larger economic system. Entrepreneurs and investors recognized this opportunity early. Throughout the 19th century, railway companies attracted enormous financial support. Investors understood that transportation infrastructure could generate long-term economic power. Railroads create networks, and networks create value. When a new railway line reached a remote region, entire industries often followed. Logging companies gained access to forests, mining operations expanded into mountainous areas. Agricultural products could now reach distant markets. Small frontier settlements gradually developed into towns connected to national trade routes. This transformation did not occur automatically. It required vision, capital, and large-scale organization. Railway companies had to coordinate engineers, surveyors, laborers, and suppliers across vast territories. Tracks had to be laid across rugged terrain. Bridges had to be constructed across rivers. Tunnels had to be carved through mountains. The labor involved in this process was immense. Thousands of workers participated in building the railway system. Many were immigrants who came from Europe or Asia seeking employment. Others were local laborers working seasonal jobs. Their efforts shaped the physical foundation of modern transportation. But railroad entrepreneurs also faced major financial risks. Constructing railways required enormous investment long before profits appeared. Investors often waited years before a railway line became commercially successful. This meant that railway expansion depended on long-term strategic thinking. Business leaders believed that once transportation networks were established, economic activity would follow. And in many cases they were correct. Railroads stimulated trade, migration, and industrial growth across the continent. Yet the story told in Train Dreams reminds us that behind these large economic systems were individual lives. Workers like Robert Granier were not financiers or corporate executives. They were laborers who physically built the infrastructure that allowed the modern economy to function. Their work was demanding, often dangerous and rarely celebrated. Yet without them, the railroad system could never have been completed. This contrast between large economic forces and quiet personal lives forms one of the central themes of the story. The expansion of industry and infrastructure may appear grand and historical, but at the ground level, it unfolds through the daily efforts of ordinary people. The railroads transformed the American West. They connected landscapes that had once been separated by vast distances. And they carried with them the ambitions of an entire nation moving toward modernization. Within the quiet narrative of train dreams, we see this transformation not as a spectacle, but as a gradual unfolding of history through human labor. Through the valleys, through the land, rails are drawn by human hand. Forests whisper, mountains stand, watching history slowly planned. The expansion of railroads across the American West was not only an economic transformation, it was also a legal transformation. Land, law, and government policy played a crucial role in shaping the development of the frontier. In the 19th century, the United States government faced a complex challenge. Vast territories stretched across the continent, but much of that land remained sparsely populated and difficult to access. Transportation infrastructure was limited, and economic activity was concentrated primarily along the eastern seaboard. Leaders believed that connecting these distant regions would strengthen the nation economically and politically. Railroads became the key to this vision. To encourage railway construction, the federal government adopted a series of policies that granted large amounts of land to railway companies. These land grants served two important purposes. First, they provided companies with property that could be sold or developed in order to finance railroad construction. Second, they encouraged settlement along the new railway lines. As tracks expanded westward, towns and communities began to appear along the routes. Farmers, merchants, and workers moved into these areas, gradually transforming the frontier into a network of connected settlements. However, these policies also created legal and ethical complexities. Large land grants concentrated significant power in the hands of railway corporations. Companies controlled enormous stretches of land and influenced the development of regional economies at the same time. The expansion of railroads affected indigenous communities who had lived on these lands for generations. The arrival of railways accelerated migration and settlement, which often led to displacement and conflict. From a legal perspective, the westward expansion of railroads forced governments to confront difficult questions. How should land be distributed? Who holds the right to develop natural resources? What responsibilities do corporations have toward communities and the environment? These questions did not always receive clear or fair answers, but they shaped the legal landscape of the modern American West. The quiet narrative of train dreams reflects this large historical context. Although the story focuses on an individual laborer, the world around him is shaped by powerful institutional forces. Railroad companies, government policies, and land laws influence the environment in which ordinary people live and work. The forests are cut. Railways cross valleys and mountains. New settlements appear where wilderness once existed. These changes unfold gradually, often without dramatic announcement. Yet they reshape the land and the lives of those who inhabit it. In this way, the expansion of the American frontier illustrates how law and policy interact with economic ambition. Infrastructure projects require more than engineering and labor. They also require legal systems that define ownership, regulate development, and
manage the balance between private enterprise and public interest. The railroad system therefore became not only a network of steel tracks, it became a framework that connected land, law, and national development. Within the quiet world of train dreams, these large historical forces operate in the background. They remind us that individual lives are always intertwined with the institutions and policies that shape the broader structure of society. Through the valleys. Through the valleys. Through the valleys. The expansion. Through the valleys. Through the valleys. The expansion. The expansion. Through the valleys. The expansion. The expansion of railroads across the American West. The expansion of railroads across the American West. The expansion. The expansion of railroads across the American West. The expansion. The expansion. Through the valleys. Through the valleys. The expansion. The railroads across the American West. The expansion. Through the valleys. The expansion of railroads. Expansion of railroads across the American West. The expansion of railroads across the American West. Through the valleys. Through the valleys. The expansion. Through the valleys. 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 Through the valleys.
Quiet forests, endless sky, rivers slowly passing by. Steel arrives through wood and stone, nature watching not alone. The world portrayed in train dreams exists at a moment of transition between two different landscapes. One landscape is ancient and natural. The other is modern and industrial. For thousands of years, the forests, rivers, and mountains of the American West evolved according to the rhythms of nature. Wildfires shaped the growth of forests. Rivers carved valleys over centuries. Animals migrated across vast territories following seasonal patterns. Human presence in these environments had long been relatively light. Indigenous communities developed ways of living that were closely connected to the natural systems around them. But during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, This balance began to change rapidly. Railroads, logging operations, and expanding settlements introduced a new relationship between humans and nature. The railroad was not only a transportation system, it was also a tool that allowed industrial activity to reach remote environments. Once railway lines crossed the mountains and forests, large-scale extraction became possible. Timber could be transported to distant cities, minerals could be shipped to factories, agricultural products could move across the continent. This transformation dramatically altered the landscape. Forests that had stood for centuries were cut down within a few decades. Rivers were redirected or bridged to support infrastructure. Wildlife habitats were fragmented by roads, towns, and industrial activity. From a scientific perspective, these changes represent an example of rapid ecological transformation. Ecosystems that had evolved slowly over long periods were suddenly exposed to intense human intervention. In the early 20th century, environmental science was still developing. Many people viewed forests and rivers primarily as resources waiting to be used. Only later did scientists begin to study the complex relations that sustain ecological systems. Today we understand that forests regulate climate, protect soil, and support biodiversity. Rivers shape landscapes and provide essential water systems. Wildlife populations contribute to ecological balance in ways that are not always immediately visible. The industry expansion that accompanied the growth of railroads often overlooked these interconnected systems. Yet the story told in Train Dreams reveals another dimension of this transformation. The protagonist lives close to nature. His daily life unfolds within forests, rivers, and mountains. He observes the land not as an abstract economic resource, but as a living environment through his perspective. The film invites viewers to consider the emotional and spiritual significance of natural landscapes. The forests are not simply timber. The mountains are not simply obstacles to be crossed. They are places where human life encounters something larger and older than civilization itself. This tension between industrial progress and natural continuity forms one of the quiet themes of the story. Railroads and logging camps represent the arrival of modern economic systems. But the natural world continues to exist alongside those systems, sometimes altered, sometimes resilient. Science today helps us understand that these relationships are complex. Human activity shapes ecosystems. At the same time, natural systems shape the conditions under which human societies survive. The forests, rivers, and climate ultimately influence the sustainability of civilization itself. In this sense, the landscapes portrayed in Train Dreams remind us that history unfolds not only through human decisions, but also through the dynamic interaction between society and nature. A lonely rail through silent land, a quiet life, a working hand. Smoke fades slowly into sky. Time keeps walking softly by. At the center of Train Dreams is not a dramatic hero,
It is an ordinary man living an ordinary life. Robert Grenier does not become famous. He does not lead armies or build corporations. Instead, he lives quietly in a remote region of the American West. And yet his life reflects something universal about the human experience. The story unfolds across decades. During that time, the world around him changes dramatically. Railroads expand. Towns appear. Industries grow. Modern technology gradually reshapes the landscape. But within this large historical movement, the film focuses on something smaller and more intimate. It focuses on memory. Human life is made of moments that often appear simple at the time they occur. Working in the forest, walking through snow, watching a train pass through a mountain valley, speaking with a neighbor. These moments rarely appear important when they happen, but over time they accumulate into a life. In many ways, Train Dreams is a meditation on how memory shapes our understanding of existence. Philosophers often describe human identity as a narrative. We understand our lives by remembering the experiences that formed us. But memory is not a perfect record. It changes over time. Certain moments grow brighter. Others fade quietly into the background. As years pass, people begin to look back and see patterns that were invisible in the present. The protagonist in Train Dreams spends much of his life in solitude. This solitude is not portrayed as purely tragic. Instead, it becomes a space for reflection. Modern society often emphasizes constant activity. Cities are filled with movement, communication, and noise. But solitude has historically played an important role in human thought. Many philosophers, writers, and spiritual teachers have discovered insight in moments of quiet isolation. Solitude allows individuals to observe the passage of time more carefully. It allows them to notice small details that might otherwise be overlooked. The forests, the seasons, the distant sound of a train crossing the valley. Within the film, the railroad itself becomes a symbol. At first, it represents industrial progress. It brings economic change and connects distant regions. But over time, it also becomes something else. A reminder of time moving forward. Trains pass through the landscape, carrying passengers whose lives intersect briefly with the places they travel through. Then they disappear again into the distance. Human lives can feel similar. People arrive. They share moments with others. And eventually they continue on their journeys. The quiet tone of Train Dreams reflects this deeper awareness of impermanence. Civilizations grow and change. Technologies appear and evolve. Entire landscapes transform over the course of a single lifetime. Yet within these vast changes, individual human experiences remain deeply meaningful. A conversation, a memory, a moment of beauty in the natural world. These small experiences form the true substance of life. In the end, The story reminds us that history is not only shaped by great events, it is also shaped by countless quiet lives. Lives that unfold slowly beneath the large movements of civilization. And perhaps the most powerful message of Train Dreams is this: even the most ordinary life contains depth, dignity, and meaning. A single person walking through the forests of the frontier can carry within them the entire